everything. Very weird. Oh, 58 live! Exclamation mark.
So you really should prioritize seeing Winter Soldier and Civil War, because like there's some surprises in Civil War that won't ruin the movie for you knowing, but I'm pretty sure will be spoiled for you in a week or two.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And I think it's a lot more exciting being surprised by him.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we don't really get a chance to go out to the theater a lot either. So, like, I just saw Star Wars for the first time a couple weeks ago when it came out on Blu-ray. You know, like.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we're kind of we're a ways behind.
Oh man. I'm an opening night kind of guy, and like I had one of the worst theater experiences I ever had seeing Civil War, but it was still I still enjoyed the movie.
Yeah. And that's been my theater experiences for like 5 years. So that I'm not really too torn up that we don't go to movies that often, because I just sit there fuming where it's like, just get off your phone. Oh my god.
Well, it was just like the theater AC was out, so we were just like sweating like mad, and like light came on in the middle of the movie, and it was just like I should have argued for my money back. I just wanted to leave by the time we were done and didn't feel like messing with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so frustrating. And I have a pretty nice setup at home too, so.
Yeah.
Nothing like Knobs's, but
I've been to a lot. No one's is like.
I know it's a singular experience.
Listening to Knob on the podcast it's just like, wow, that there are no limits to the entertainment centers he's building in his house.
No, yeah, and I'm glad you pluralized it too, because it very much is, you know, one floor, another floor. You will get entertained no matter where you are in that house.
Yeah. But man, yeah, Civil War's real good.
Yeah, I was. I think the only dissenting review I've heard is my wife was telling me about the one she heard on NPR, where the guy was saying like he hadn't really watched any of the Marvel movies lately, so he felt like he missed out on some of the jokes because they were referencing stuff he hadn't seen in a while. I was like, well,
yeah,
that's a fair. I feel like that's a fair criticism of it. They are becoming more and more insular as they continue, because they sort of figured, well, another movie's coming out, you probably just watched all the other ones.
Well, and the director, the Russos, said that they made a decision pretty early on that these things were serialized movies, and they had too much they needed to accomplish in the movie to catch the audience up with what already happened.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially with Civil War, like, you could spend an hour going over, like, where the breadcrumbs led to these two disagreeing.
Honestly, you could probably see the two Avengers movies and Winter Soldier and be prepared for Civil War, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think there's probably another joke, like a couple jokes from Ant-Man you might pick up.
Sure.
But I don't think as absolutely funny as Ant-Man is in the movie, I don't think he won't be funny not having that information.
Sure. I mean, we'll see Ant-Man mostly because I really like Paul Rudd.
He's great.
I'm really glad they keep scooping up. Hi, JC. I really like they keep scooping up actors and actresses I really like. And we're like, Paul Rudd's Ant-Man. It's like, great. That seems like a really weird choice, but all right.
Ant-Man's great.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it is. I own it and watched it again recently, and watched it again when I bought it, and I think that's gonna be one of the ones that is entertaining for a. Like it'll have a better lifespan in terms of quality than the rest of them. But.
Yeah, that and probably Guardians of the Galaxy, because that's a pretty good standalone one.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard the sequel, like, James Gunn, like, he's a blunt dude and makes it a point never to mislead fans.
Yeah.
And he said on Twitter, he's like, "Look, Thanos isn't in this movie. Like, I want as little to do with the normal Marvel universe as I can, so I can
Nice.
just do my own thing."
I can
So
get behind that.
yeah,
I mean, for God's sakes, they have enough stuff to cover in just Guardians themselves that they don't need to be like, and here comes Thanos.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they're gonna appear in the Infinity movies. But
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, that sort of has to happen, I think.
yeah, I mean, Thanos is in space. They're in space. Why wouldn't everyone?
Yeah, everybody's ready to party.
Yeah. Space is a small place, so they'll all bump into each other. Like,
Should be
at the
fine.
grocery.
Yeah, it's right around the corner.
But
Oh, God. Okay. Oh, back is killing me. You ready to kick this thing off?
yeah, let's do it.
All right, starting in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me, as always, is Musum.
Hello.
No Mina this month. She had some other plans to take care of. But one piece of programming note before we start here: Picking Up the Pixels is now available on Google Play Music Podcasts. So, if you have an Android something or a Google something, you should be able to find PUP in whatever podcast section exists somewhere. So, search for us in your favorite thing. We're basically everywhere at this point. But now that that's over with, all of our the boring business stuff is out of the way. Musum, what have you been playing this past month?
Actually, can I be a bad person and do one more business thing?
Sure, go ahead.
Because I just realized I meant to ask you about this beforehand, so I apologize. I have a new album, and I haven't announced it on PUP yet. So
Yes, that's right. Please plug away.
it is titled Sea of Ghosts. It is available on iTunes, Amazon, Amazon Music, Spotify. I get 1/1000th of a cent if you listen to it on
So listen to it
on
a
one of
lot.
the streaming. But it's also available on musum.bandcamp.com. It is $7 to $9 depending on where you buy it. If you like the music for PUP or No Quarters or TVGP, I wrote all of that music. So this is my new album, and I think people will like it a lot. So.
Yeah, and you can still buy his back catalog too, which is all really good.
You can't, and actually on Bandcamp, there's a deal where you get like 25% off on everything if you
Even
buy
better.
all my stuff. So
There you go. Scoop it all up at once. Save yourself some money and get Musa paid a little bit.
yeah, I really like that.
Yeah.
I would likely play more RPGs with that.
There you go. It will go directly into his RPG addiction. All right. Whoop. Go ahead.
So, what I've been playing this month. So I started out trying to be a little diverse. Me and Susie played more Moon Hunters, and we finally found someone finally posted on the internet how to actually get the the goal of Moon Hunters is to save the Moon Goddess, right?
Mm-hmm.
And someone finally posted how to do that because we never could figure it out, and it turned out that there's this one character you run into that says a phrase, and depending on how the phrase is said, it represents a cardinal direction.
The crow flies at midnight, and you're like, oh, yes.
Yeah,
North it is.
Pretty much. Like
Wow.
midnight would equal north, and then sun would equal something else. But so we went the right way, and then we got to this one particular shrine where you're supposed to step on 3 moon symbols in a particular order.
Mm-hmm.
And I misinterpreted the half moon as the the moon sliver or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then it locked the puzzle and it wouldn't let us get it.
Lame.
And it took the wind out of our sails so much. We haven't played since, but now that we know how to do it, I'm pretty sure we can. We just gotta get in there and do that. It just was really disappointing because it's like the last day you're in there. We've already played for half an hour, but
it's such a shame too, because that game seems, at least from a conceptual level, a game seems like such a cool idea. It just seems like they need to keep working on it.
Yeah, and I think they are. I think they're introducing an expansion. I still don't think anyone is going to. I don't know how the fan base figured out how to get to the Moon Shrine, because that was
a little obscure, it sounds like.
It's very obscure, especially since they will like sometimes the direction's northeast, so they will say two words that you have to. Like
Oh, right.
I don't understand it at all, but either way, I still really like the game. I love the style of it. I love the music. I think the gameplay is pretty good. I just hope they add more to it, and I hope the console base is receptive to it. This also might be one of those deals where I'm a little bit more forgiving of it because of a lot of the things it's trying.
Yeah.
But it's either way. I think this team is we're gonna want to keep an eye on them for whatever they do next. So
Yeah, definitely.
um, played some more Fallout 4. My goal was to get in there and beat it. So of course, what I promptly did was pay $10 for the Automatron DLC because it said I could build more things and I could build more things with it, and like it's probably the only piece of DLC I'll buy for it, but it kind of had more of what I wanted because I was expecting it to have like this really cool robot customizations, and it did. Like I can attach a laser to a robot's head. I can give that nurse robot legs if I want to.
These are all actually really good selling points.
One of the like you get a new companion robot. I can't remember her name, but she's one of those Assaultron, those Fembot looking things.
Oh yeah.
So basically, I gave her like a laser Gatling gun for one arm, and then I gave her like a electricity claw for the other, and then I made her fly.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's cool. The actual story in it, I think, is kind of pretty quick. Take it or leave it. It's more about building the robot stuff.
Other Jay-Z in chat says Fallout 4 actual DLC out in 12 days. I think that's the one I'm interested in, mostly because it takes you to another location and you get a little bit more story behind Nick Valentine, which is probably my favorite character in that game. So it's kind of nice to see they're doing both. They're doing kind of, hey, let's do stuff in the current game and in the current world, and then doing kind of the Fallout 3 DLC, which is let's go to another location and let's have a whole separate sort of self-contained story.
Yeah. Like I think Nick Valentine is arguably the best character in the game. I think he has the most interesting perspective, and the fact that he talks kind of like this Humphrey Bogart, like private eye, and is trying
gumshoe detective.
Yeah. And he's got a good moral standing to him that I think is very appealing. But
yeah,
anytime Bethesda releases a DLC that makes me go somewhere else, I'm hesitant.
I hope they don't do the thing they did with Fallout 3, where it's like, welcome to this new place. You don't have any of your stuff.
Oh man,
that was the worst.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah.
They've done a new location for nearly every single one of their games, though, because I mean, Morrowind had I'm not going to remember the name of it now. It actually had I think both of its DLCs were new locations. Oblivion, maybe Oblivion didn't have a new location, but Skyrim does, and I'm pretty sure both Fallouts did. So
yeah.
So I don't know. I like that game a lot. It doesn't quite capture my imagination, I think, as much as like Skyrim or something does. But before I get to the horrible Skyrim hole I went down, I decided I really wanted to start playing Ogre Battle again, and I wanted to stream it. So kind of to do that, since I don't have a capture card, I started looking into emulation because I own the PlayStation 1 copy. I can almost reach it from here, but I can't. Otherwise, I would show it to you. But
hold up the newspaper with today's date and your copy of Ogre Battle.
Yeah, and like in the cast, like I lift it up and show it every couple minutes because I'm all super paranoid for some dumb reason. Like Square Enix probably doesn't even know they still own that property.
It's probably like it's like some of those old movies where they can only tap your phone every couple of minutes. You have to hold up Ogre Battle every 5 minutes and say, no, I'm still good. All right.
Yeah. So one, like, I guess, so I started to get into emulation and read into it, and PS1 emulation I thought would be like Bleem was back in the day. You install a program and it works.
Yeah.
And I guess they make some of those, but the one everyone likes the most is called EPSXE.
Oh yeah, that one.
And that one's weird because you have to do all this extra stuff to install it. Like,
Yeah.
it requires a PlayStation BIOS file. It requires you to install this OpenGL simulator.
You have all these
Uh,
plugins that all need configured.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little complicated. And it's been a good, like, between that and trying to figure out how to, so it turns out there are no readily available tutorials on creating a disk image for PlayStation 1, which I wanted to do so I don't ruin my Ogre Battle copy because it's a very rare game.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Um, and I couldn't find one, so I tried some stuff that I thought would do it because it has PlayStation 1 games, the copy protection, they intentionally put in some errors in one of the sectors or something like that. So
Right.
you want to make sure you don't have error correcting. So I did that, and it didn't work at all. I tried running the emulation directly from the disk, but it was super choppy. So
Weird.
then finally I was like, forget it. I'm going to Google it, and immediately found, we'll call it a backup copy.
Yes, a legally acquired backup copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just it amazed me. Just I don't know, but anyway, so I started playing that game. You can see my first few sessions on there. The hard part about that game is there are so many like systems in terms of figuring out what's going to affect what story wise and what you have to do to make sure you get the next things to occur. Um, basically, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, right. Like, basically, I spend probably an hour researching what I'm supposed to do on a given map before I stream. So
Right.
that is why I haven't done another installment yet because I just haven't had the time to sit down and figure that out. But like the last map I did is it's like the third mission I think you go on. I thought it would last an hour at most, and it lasted like 2 hours or 2.5.
Jeez.
Your goal in this map is, well, for story-wise, you want to recruit Canopus and Gilbert. To recruit Canopus and Gilbert, Canopus, I keep my P's and B's kind of blend together.
Very important distinction.
So the first, like to get them, you have to go to the shop town where you hear a rumor about like Canopus, and then you visit Canopus, and then you hear a rumor about a sister, and then you got to go see a sister, and then you got to go back to the shop town, and then back to him. Like it's a lot of juggling, and then once you get him, then you can fight the boss and get Gilbert.
Jeez.
So it's complicated. The other thing I forgot about that game was that you don't have direct control over your guys.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It is like that. The whole system in there is so different. Like the closest comparison I can think of is something like Disciples, or I mean, it's like a turn-based like Warcraft style game. You know, whatever those things are called, strategy games.
Yeah.
What are they? But because basically you make your unit and then you set your tactics, and your tactics determine what all your guys are going to attack. And if you kill the leader of the enemy unit, then that unit will retreat, go back home, and then come back with everything healed and the leader back. So you have to kill everything and then the leader, but you only get so many attacks per encounter. So it's a lot of, okay, this guy has the most hit points. Do I go for best or strongest? Which one is going to tackle this guy and take him out? But I don't know. I still like that game a lot. It definitely is a huge time sink. I haven't beaten it since me and my friend read it in high school. And I don't know how we actually beat it back then, because that's like a 90-hour RPG.
Well, and it's one of those things where it's like, how did I ever figure out any of this stuff? Like,
yeah. Well, and back then we didn't. We just got the worst ending. We got the you're an evil dark person or whatever thing, you know, because we didn't.
Yeah.
We had no clue that the rest of this stuff was there.
Yeah, it's sort of like, well, I got an ending, but okay. I mean, that seems a little crummy.
Yeah, but I don't know. Anyway, I like that game a lot. I hope to get back to it. I think the other problem is I need to spend another hour kind of rebalancing all my units because the combat system is like it has this weird kind of morality perception built into it, where if you're a higher level character killing a lower level character, that will reduce that character's alignment. Um, because you're looked at this the more powerful evil guy beating up the lesser guy, right?
Oh, okay.
So you want to constantly have kind of these low level troops attacking the higher level troops, unless you want a low alignment unit. And what alignment is it's a stat that determines what you can level up into. So, like a mage, for instance, is going to level up into a wizard and a warlock and a lich. And to make those transitions, they have to have a low alignment. But for like a knight or a fighter to level up into like a knight or a paladin, they have to have a high alignment.
Right.
On top of all that, alignment, like whatever, like each map has, you know, a handful of cities in it to liberate. And if you liberate at night, you have a reputation meter that goes down a little. If you liberate during the day, then it benefits you, but it benefits you most if you liberate the town with a leader, a troop led with a character with a high alignment.
Okay.
Like it's really, really complicated.
Well, and it's interesting because I think hearing Ogre Battle explained makes a lot more sense why Tactics Ogre was so popular, because at that point everyone went, ah, cool, I can figure this out. Got it.
Yeah.
I now it makes sense.
For as complicated as Tactics Ogre is, it is lacking a lot of that, like that complicated, mystifying stuff.
Right. The real almost like D&D inspired sort of stuff that it sounds like Ogre Battle is sort of not really lifting, but kind of taking and purposing for itself.
Yeah. And I don't know. I've been considering, like, if the theoretical day of me beating Ogre Battle ever happens, like possibly looking into some form of PSP emulation and taking my copy or save game from Tactics Ogre and starting at the beginning and kind of going through, or just starting a completely new game since my alignment with this one faction is completely ruined.
Yeah, I actually looked at PSP emulation a little while ago. I don't remember what I wanted to play. It was probably Final Fantasy Tactics. But there's an emulator called PPSSPP that's actually pretty good.
Okay.
It seems like someone finally sort of cracked that nut and they just kind of ran with it.
Yeah. Well, and I also think, like, as much as I love Ogre Battle, I also suspect that Tactics Ogre will be, since it's more, like, they're both story-oriented, but I think Tactics Ogre always has a story going on, where Ogre Battle does not.
Right.
And I think on that end, that'll be more entertaining to kind of watch in terms of, like, it won't be as hard a pill to swallow, I think, for someone walking in and going, oh, wow, this is old graphics. This guy is talking crazy mechanics.
Yeah, I think this game is only mechanics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, and last but not least, I went down a Skyrim mod hole. Kind of a couple things happened that inspired this. One, I read the article about the guy who redid like 3 or 4 of the Skyrim cities.
Oh, yeah.
It's called like Holds or something like that. It's like a 4 gig mod. And 2, I read the story about the person who, like, they kind of told this kind of human narrative of them finding a dog in Skyrim and their concerns finding this dog a home and kind of all the things that happened around that.
I did read that. That was pretty entertaining.
And like, it got me thinking. I'm like, I really like. Usually, when I approach a Bethesda game, I just have a loose idea of the path I want to go in terms of, okay, I want to be the good guy. Not really going to think about my character all that much, and I'm just gonna. These are the factions I'm gonna go for in terms of topping out. So this time, my goal was to add enough mods into Skyrim that it was unfamiliar enough for me to enjoy as new. While at the same time thinking up a character and character motivation and kind of do a lot of things in terms of immersion and trying not to fast travel and whatnot, so I can actually have this kind of character role playing experience.
Right.
Which, for the most part, it was a success. But the thing is I downloaded Mod Organizer, which is what Mina recommended to me. So Mod Organizer, the benefit of that is it doesn't overwrite files so long as you don't use the automatic installers.
Oh, right.
Which I didn't know, so like I immediately ruined my Skyrim install, and then I just learned this a couple days ago about the not to trust the actual installers and to actually kind of dissect them manually with Mod Organizer so that you can kind of remove them if you want. But my goal was also to stream this, but it crashes often enough that I just gave up on streaming.
Right.
The unfortunately, the Holds city expansion did not. It doesn't. I couldn't figure out how to make it work with Mod Organizer. Unfortunately, it installed. The other Jay-Z says this just in, mods can totally ruin your saves. So funny story, all of my saves have worked through all of my mod setups of like the past couple weeks. You'll get like a pop-up message that says you're missing stuff, and then you'll go in and like the worst thing I've experienced is I tried a different city modifying mod. I can't remember the name of it, but like now whenever I go into Riften, for instance, there are some textures missing from the gate.
Oh, sure.
Because it's like that one just made the experience too unstable. So the other Jay-Z also says this just in, Bethesda can totally ruin your saves. Yes, they can.
That's very accurate.
And they will.
Quote unquote, accidentally.
Which is why I always play PC.
Yeah.
Because you can usually find something that will make it work. Unless you've just installed some insane mods that make it not work under any other conditions.
Or someone on some subreddit is like, oh, I totally just edited the hex files for a couple hours and I figured out what the problem is. Here's just a small patch.
Yeah. Man, I haven't gone down the rabbit hole of Reddit. But I have spent hours upon hours on the Nexus.
Yeah.
And like they just like kind of the mod arrangement I wound up getting was I took alternate start. So what alternate start? Well, it's self-explanatory, but you start in a dungeon and then kind of choose how you want to start out. And I tried 4 or 5 of them. Like one of them, you could be a bandit, and you literally start out in a bandit camp, and then you read your journal, and it's like you're kind of bored of the bandit life, so you feel like leaving. So you have this one bandit camp that won't attack you, which I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Another one of the starts makes you a property owner in one of the cities, so you can totally start out owning a house.
Start out just playing Fable 2.
Yeah. So the start I elected to do because I've always been really bad about playing evil characters because it's at the end of the day being evil is completely unrelatable to most human beings, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of I decided with the goal of I want this character to eventually become a vampire. I want them to join the Stormcloaks. I can't really think of a motivation for joining the Stormcloaks because I hate the Stormcloaks.
Yeah, they're not. 2 thumbs down.
Yeah, but I've never seen that storyline. So I was looking into that. So the beginning I wound up doing is they had one option where it's like escape from this dungeon we started you in. So I selected that, and then it's basically your character's like, look, I just woke up in this dungeon. The Imperials put me here. As you're escaping, you find out that, like, the Imperials that were stationed here were drowned because the river rised. So that gave me character motivation to want revenge on the Imperials. Like, you just locked me up in this dungeon, so I'm eventually going to drown. So now my goal is going to be to take you down no matter who I have to ally myself with, kind of thing.
Interesting.
And it's like the moment I realized that this really worked for me was like I had gotten out of the dungeon and I was walking towards whatever the nearest thing was, and I ran into a bard, and he's like, "Here, you want me to play you a song?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." He's like, "Well, which one?" I'm like, I don't know either of these songs. Let's just do this one."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, an Empire lover," and then starts singing it, and then I'm like, "No, my character hates the Empire. No one else is around, and I killed him."
No one will ever know.
And I saved it and moved on. And normally, like in a Bethesda game, if I kill an NPC, it's just a rage moment, and I reload, and then play through again. So it was,
Right.
I don't know. I enjoyed having that immersion. And I've also installed the was it the Frostfire and Campfire mods. Where basically they add, like, if it's snowing, your character's going to get cold and could pass out and die. And they have this whole kind of skill set where you build a fire, and the fire actually has its own skill trees that you can use once you get it going and you build up. Like, you'll gain endurance towards the elements and ability to make fires faster or gather wood faster. The mod also makes all your clothes kind of determine how warm they keep you. Like, you have a kind of threshold rating that goes on there, and you have an extra bar that pops up that I could not for the life of me figure out what was doing there for like the first hour I played. It was just like, did I break it? Why is my health bar up there? But no, it's very simple. It's if the bar is showing up and it's in the red and going down, that means you're getting colder.
Oh, okay.
If it's blue, that means you're cold and you have a bunch of negative stat modifiers on you. Blizzards, for instance, too. Now your walking speed is reduced when you're in them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It's a mod that I thought would wind up being a lot of micromanaging, and they automate it enough to where, like, basically you're like, okay, now it's literally okay. It's getting dark. I'm in the mountains. I really just need to make camp and put up my tent, right?
Yeah.
Before I get cold or whatever. So you just activate your skill and build a fire, and then you click on the fire and then click on what you want to do. So, like, it's all fairly automated. You don't have to dig through your inventory for a billion things to make this work. You just have to make sure you have the items you need in your inventory.
Right.
Which is pretty easy. But I really enjoy that mod, and I didn't think I would. The other thing I did is I've added a ton of NPCs to the world. I downloaded that one NPC mod that I've already talked about on here that adds like 50 NPCs that kind of take what Bethesda's style of dialogue and throws it to an extreme where everyone is ready to give you a 30-minute lecture on their life story.
Right.
And then I tried out a bunch of the user-made companions. So it turns out if you go on the Nexus and look for user-made companions, about 90% of the first 12 pages are all, I will say, entirely about their aesthetic.
Maybe more adult focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
18 and up.
Right.
They and there is no compunction about it. And because I was depressed at the end of 12 pages, I was just like, screw it, I'm just downloading a bunch of random ones of these.
Yeah. And
tried them out, and none of them were like voiced or had any extra dialogue. They were literally just there for eye candy and help you kill stuff or to be OP. So I got rid of those and looked around Reddit a bit and finally found a couple recommended ones that were actually really good. One of them is named Arissa. She has all her own dialogue. She comments on everything.
Oh, wow.
She has kind of an entry story. She has you can turn it off, but she has a regard stat of how she regards you. So she doesn't trust you at first, so she's not going to carry anything for you, and she's not going to do a whole lot for you. But through kind of your actions in the course of the game, it'll change. So like my intro with her is you run into her and she knocks you out and steals your money, and then you catch up to her and she joins you, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
when you when she joins you, she asks you, what's so or what are you? Tell me about yourself. And you have the option to tell her that you're the Dragonborn. So I opted not to do that. I'm just like, look, I'm a thief.
I'm just a normal dude that
Yeah.
can totally talk to dragons.
So that's what I did. And so then the first time I killed a dragon, she's like, what just happened there?
Well, funny
Like,
story.
yeah, it was really cool. It's whenever you walk into a city, you can tell her, hey, meet me at the entrance here later. And as you walk around the city, like she will randomly be in like a bar or a store or something like that in like civilian clothes kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, it's a neat, I think, pretty neat character.
That's kind of what you want out of mods too, where it integrates itself pretty cleanly into what you're already playing.
Yeah, and there are. I downloaded all the NPCs that were recommended on this Reddit, which there was a grand total of like 3 or 4 of them. There were not many,
Hmm.
and I guess it's understandable, like because you'd have to have a good enough audio setup and a friend or yourself who can do acting, to pull this off.
Right.
So she was one of the ones I got. I got this other chick who is kind of I almost interpret her as a joke version of the whole sexy NPC thing because you meet her and she's like waking up in her underwear in a barn and doesn't know how she got there. And like you can feed her drinks through the game and she'll get drunk and comment on stuff.
Oh, jeez.
But she has a very adult sense of humor, but I found her kind of entertaining. And she has kind of this Jersey accent going on too, which is also funny.
That's a mod to maybe take you a little bit more out of the game.
Yeah. I don't. Currently, I just have Arissa with me. And then the other one I downloaded that's supposed to be really good that I keep meaning to look to see where he is because I haven't found him yet. His name is Hoth. And I think his name is Hoth. I downloaded 2 more. One is a cat person who is evidently really popular online, and it's a he, like one of the few. Like the contrast between male companions and females.
Right. It's a real
fast.
99 to 1% ratio.
Yeah. So I think I downloaded the only 2. But another one's an old bounty hunter that's supposed to be good. And evidently the old bounty hunter can actually, they put that random quest generator system in him. So he can actually just give you leads and stuff. But again, I don't remember where they are, and I haven't gone looking for them. And it's also one of those deals where I can have more than one companion with one of the mods I have. But I found whenever I travel with multiple companions that either they start tripping over themselves or they kill everything before I can get to them.
Oh, right.
Which means I'm not gaining any experience. So I'm trying to restrict myself to one person. But it's that game is still really good. And with some mods, that game is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, that is, I think, still better looking than a lot of modern day games, and just like some of the landscapes and things. Like I downloaded a mod that lets you see farther and kind of creates a blurriness at a distance and kind of creates a waterfall effect. They just have incredible things you can do here that I think revitalizes the Skyrim experience. And I've been completely re-addicted to it the past week, and I'm likely going to play more tonight. So
Yeah.
I think if you haven't played it on PC, I mean, Xbox controller works with PC if that's what you want to do. And Mod Organizer, you'll probably need to read an hour or 2 of tutorials to do it, but I think it would be worth it if you're ever interested in having kind of a new Skyrim experience. So
Yeah.
but that's all I got.
I've played, I think, when I looked at my clock, I played about 7 hours of Bravely Second so far. I've got the collector's edition right here in the background. It's giant. It's as big as the Fallout 4 collector's edition. Bravely Second is weird. So, I think I talked about the default on the demo here on the show before. If not, I've talked about it a bunch on TVGP. It's weird because the demo itself is removed from the game. So it's a 4 or 5 hour experience that they don't lift out of the game proper. It's this standalone sort of thing, and it focuses on 3 characters for the entirety of the demo. And it's weird because I think I would almost recommend playing the demo before you play the game, not only because you can carry over a bunch of stuff, but because there's something that happens at the beginning of the game that I don't think if you had that background of those characters, I don't think it would really matter that much. Or it would sort of seem like, okay, I don't know why that happened, but sure. So that's been a little bit weird, and I finally got all 4 story members. 2 of them are new. The main character, which I'm not really that crazy about. And I got 2 of the characters from the first game. If you finish the first game, you know which 2 it's going to be. I feel a little bit better about the game now that I have all 4 party members. I have 4 party members. I think I have 5 jobs now, so I can finally give people, a smattering of jobs. I feel like it's kind of hard to follow up Bravely Default, and to set the game in, it's like 2 to 2.5 years after the first one, so you're kind of retreading a lot of ground that you already covered in the first game. The world map is exactly the same. A lot of the towns are exactly the same. I just went through a dungeon that's like an end game dungeon in the first game, and that was the same too. I don't mind retreading some of that stuff, but to have some of that stuff front loaded kind of feels a little bit weird. So my brother and I have been kind of emailing about it, and both of us are sort of like, yeah, it's okay. It's fine. The real strength of it so far is the battle system. The Brave and the default system return. They do some really great stuff to... Something the Bravely Default games do really well is really streamlining the battle system to make it as easy on you as possible, because you're going to fight a lot. It's a JRPG. They added some stuff in this game where before, if you wanted to brave a couple times, if anybody hasn't played Bravely Default, basically you have basically let's call it action points. If you brave a bunch, you can attack or do some sort of action or a number of actions in one turn at the cost of your action points. If you go into negative action points, you have to wait a couple turns to rebuild those, and then you can act again. On the other side of the spectrum, if you default, you build up those action points while you're defending, basically. One of the things that once you got deeper in the game became a problem in the first game was if you wanted to use a bunch of Braves, excuse me, you would have to pick your actions each time, even if it was the same thing you wanted to do. This one, thankfully, you can set up your action and then highlight an enemy and hit one of the shoulder buttons, and it just says, oh, I'll just do that 4 times. So it's all that sort of stuff that they kind of streamline. Ivan Incubus in chat says, FedEx lost my Bravely Second Collector's Edition, which sucks. I really like the first game, but since I could get the Collector's Edition I ordered, having second thoughts, should I still get the Standard Edition and play through it? I don't know yet. It's very much Bravely Default 2. And I like the 2 characters from the first game that they brought back. I really don't like the 2 new characters they introduced, but it's still, 5 to 7 hours in a JRPG. I think I spent like 100 hours on the first one, so I still have plenty of time to go. I just got out of the prologue after 5 hours. I don't really know. I'm sort of reserving judgment on this for a little bit longer because I I felt kind of burnt out on Bravely Default when I finished it, mostly because of the hoops you had to jump through to finish that game. And I feel that fatigue a little bit starting Bravely Second. And I know it's not Bravely Second's fault, but it's so similar to the first one that I'm sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop. So far, it seems good. The same composer did not return, which is a real bummer. I think Bravely Default has one of my favorite video game soundtracks. And this one is really good. It's just not nearly as good as the first one was. So I don't know. I'm going to stick with it. I'm hoping that as it kind of unfolds and expands and you get more jobs and you get... The thing I really like about Bravely Default is the same thing I like about Final Fantasy V, just sort of writ large, where in Final Fantasy V, you can mix and match jobs, but you can only really have like 2 things going on at once. In Bravely Default, you have 5 slots for each character to just inherit stuff from any of the jobs you've leveled up. Like one of the jobs I got in this one is, I think it's called Charioteer. And one of the things that I just equipped was triple equip. And you can equip a weapon in both hands, and then you can actually equip a weapon in your head slot. So you can actually be wielding 3 weapons somehow all at once. And that seems to do an incredible amount of damage. But what's great about that is you can then turn yourself into some other job, inherit triple equip, and then inherit, level 1 healing magic and level 1 black magic. You can sort of mix and match all this stuff way better. And that's the stuff I really like from Bravely Default and from Bravely Second. And I think I'll enjoy Bravely Second more once I start diving deeper into that and doing the mix and matching with job system that I really like. But in the early, they don't even start you out with... The first job you get is Black Mage, basically. They don't even start you out with any healing stuff. They don't start you out with anything really crazy. I just got the healing class after the intro, so I feel like I can now dig deeper into Bravely Second. And I hope it's good. I want it to be. I don't play enough 3DS games in general. And I kind of like being able to lay on the couch and hang out with my 3DS for a while. So we'll see. Tune in next month. I'll have hopefully more impressions then. But the only other RPG I've been playing, technically, is my wife and I have gotten back into Destiny a little bit. The spring update came out. It's sort of colloquially called the Taken Spring. It added a couple new quests and a new strike, and it upgraded, sort of brought Prison of Elders into year 2. The new quests were okay. There's standard Destiny quests of, hey, go through this thing, chase this dude, shoot a whole bunch of Taken. Hey, you're done. And basically the culmination of that quest was, hey, go do this new strike. And I talked about it a bit on TVGP, but this new strike sort of violates 3 of the sins that Destiny can violate. One of them is it's very similar to another strike, just backwards. Number 2 is it's short. And number 3 is there's way too many enemies in the very ending of it. And it's not a... when you look at the raids, those are really kind of the top of the pops for PvE experiences in Destiny. And that makes a lot of sense. Those are really finely tuned, real specific teamwork, voice chat sort of things. When you look at the strikes, they have to be a bit more simplistic, just because the assumption is that you're not going to voice chat and you're just going to be playing with random people. But I don't think that really means that you have to make a strike that's kind of overly simplistic like that. It's basically just, go from orbit into a strike, shoot a bunch of dudes. Hey, there's the boss. Shoot in the head for about 5 minutes. Hey, let's get some loot.
Hmm.
I think that's kind of a bummer. Um, but I think on the other end of the spectrum, Prison of Elders. So the previous one, it was like level 28, 32, 34, and 35, something like that. And they introduced a new one, which is level 41 and then 42. And the 41 one is interesting. It's basically a higher level version of the previous one, but you have the chance of it becoming a Taken version of Prison of Elders, which the Taken are such an interesting force to fight compared to the standard enemies, that it's kind of neat that it's changed a little bit. It's not the exact same stuff you've been fighting. It is Prison of Elders, but it's been Takenified. Um, but with all that being said, man, Destiny needs a lot more content. Like I know Activision and Bungie have been coming out and being like, yeah, we're working on it. There's got to be something. Even if like some of the strikes from year one, you can't even play those in the strike playlist in year two. So for anybody that doesn't play Destiny, strike playlist is basically you will finish a strike, it will throw you back to orbit, and you'll get thrown in a random strike for the next strike that you're going to go. Um, it you can't even play all of the stuff that you could play on year one in year two yet, and I think that's a real missed opportunity, and they're just cutting their own content off at the knees. And I think it's a real shame, and I think it's a shame that the Division didn't catch on as much as I was expecting it to, because I think that would have pushed Bungie a little bit harder on making Destiny a bit of a better experience.
I feel like everyone I know is playing the Division right now, though. Like,
Yeah, it seems like it seems like it very much has the same problem that Destiny did, and I guess the same thing that traditional MMOs have had, which is it's really easy to play through and really hit the ground pretty hard when you first start playing it, and then you hit the level cap and you're like, all right, what's the end game? And in the Division, it's reportedly not good. That first, I think they call it incursions. They're basically raid equivalent stuff. Wasn't really good. When you look at Destiny, the very first raid they unveiled was really good, and was really an experience that I feel you needed to go through if you enjoy Destiny. But it seems like both games are kind of having the same problem where either you can't make the you can't make enough content fast enough, or the content that you have isn't varied enough that it feels fresh overall. And I think Bungie and the Division, to a separate level, expect you to play the PvP to kind of fill those gaps in.
mm.
But if you don't enjoy the PvP, which is understandable, there's not a lot of content there. Even if you do enjoy the PvP, it's not, it's not a lot of content there. Ivan Incubus in chat says the game got way better from vanilla Destiny, especially with Taken King update. 100% agree. I think this game is, I think with the Taken King and especially with the spring update, I think Destiny is the game that Bungie really wanted it to be when it launched, now almost 2 years ago. It just needs to, now that it's really stable, they just need to start pumping more content in there and just get that game a lot more robust. Because I'm even someone that really enjoys it, but I don't want to keep doing the raid every week. That's not that fun to me to do over and over again, and without that, there's not a lot there, unfortunately.
Well, and that seems to be like I feel like everyone has these games, or they're trying to make something like this, where they're like, we want some sort of online game where you're committed to some sort of character or a set of characters, and we want you to always play it and it be multiplayer. Because you have those, and then you have all the weird Battleborn Overwatch stuff coming out, and to me, these are all kind of different in execution concepts that have kind of the same goals in terms of player subscription rate. And I don't know. I want a filled out world. Like I want a Skyrim where I can sit down in a chair. Like
Right.
like it's super dumb, but like having those little immersive things and I think helping. And I think if I don't know. I don't know that Destiny could bring me back. Like I haven't even I wasn't going to mention it because I didn't want to brag about it, but I'm going to brag about it. I haven't played Warframe in like over a month.
Oh wow.
I didn't play it last cast, and I didn't play it this cast. And they had an event, and I just didn't go in. I was just like, I might be done with this freaking online treadmill stuff. Like now, especially now that I'm playing one on my phone to a degree that's less intensive. But
Well, and I
like,
think especially too, I think you bring up a good point where it's an online treadmill. I think when you look at something like Destiny, you look at Division, I can understand why you would want certain parts of that game to be online. My wife and I play online because we have two PS4s and we just hop in each other's party and then we're off doing missions and quests and whatever. Um, but I think it's a real problem in some of these games where you have to be online even for your single player stuff. Like you just want to pop in Destiny and just do a mission by yourself. That should be fine offline. It's the same sort of experience. They're different games, but it's the same sort of experience I'm kind of expecting out of something like Diablo 3. Which if I want to
yeah,
play solo, that's fine. I can just play solo offline, and that's okay. And I feel like both Destiny and The Division have leaned heavily into, well, there's all these people around and they're all doing their own stuff too. And it's like, but it's not an MMO. Like
yeah,
when I'm off doing a quest, and when I was, in Destiny parlance, when I'm off doing like a mission, there's nobody else really in there once I've hit the point where it instances me off. So why do I care about? Oh, there's all these people.
yeah.
Well, I'm off to do a mission. Like marching off. See you guys later. It's weird. I don't.
It's a weird, pointless social hub, just missing all the extra excess stuff and mini games that you would get out of either a single player Bethesda game or single player Rockstar game,
Right.
or
Or like
truth,
World of Warcraft on the other end of the spectrum.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's this.
and
It's this weird middle ground where they're like, they don't want to call it an MMO. They want to call it like, well, a multiplayer online shooter. It's like, but that's not. That's not. It's okay
yeah.
to try and define this middle ground, but which side of the fence do you lean on? Do you lean on, well, it's okay to be offline sometimes, or do you justify enough being able to be online all the time?
Well, and if they just did, like, I think one of the things that really benefits games is when they add in the little immersion points. Like, I think, although I don't, I'm sure I will eventually go back to Warframe. But like, if I were to, like, one of the big selling points I think on Warframe is that you are in your ship when you select a destination to go. You are looking out the front window of your ship, and it disappears, and then you reappear and you're in orbit around the place.
Yeah.
Like they have these sense of travel things, even though you've really gone from your menu hub to the actual place you're playing. And
Right. And you have like your little home base.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I think, like if Destiny, if you just got to hang out on the inside of your ship, and maybe they built a dozen. I don't know that's probably too expensive, but like even if they built like 3 different ship interiors for the various ships they have,
Right.
that you can just wander around and access your menus in, or just go directly to the menus. I think that would benefit that. But I don't know. I don't think any of these games. I'm skeptical that they are getting the player bases they need to survive, and I feel like there are too many AAA huge multiplayer games coming out, all aimed to somehow combine the single player audience with the Call of Duty audience, and I just don't think I don't think any of it's going to work in a way that everyone's happy with.
Yeah, and I feel like Bungie's attitude has always been, their line for a while has been, it's okay if you don't play Destiny every day. You can leave and you can come back, and that's okay. And I keep thinking, that's never been Blizzard's approach. Blizzard has been, if you look at World of Warcraft, which I admit they're not directly equivalent, but I feel like if a game like this needs to be as popular and as long-standing as something like World of Warcraft, or like any of other Blizzard's other games. I haven't been able to try out Overwatch yet. That's on my docket for today. But they encourage you and almost kind of like get the meat hooks in you to play every day. And the idea that, well, it's okay if you don't play Destiny for a while. We'll be here when you come back. There's got to be something to pull you back in. Like, hey, here's a new exotic item we just put in the game, and this month is, the first month you can get it. Or we pulled in the second raid, and now it's level 41. So now you can do that, and it'll be harder again. Anything like that, but...
Destiny really does feel like it's reached its end. Like, whatever content they come out with between now and the next Destiny is just filler. Like,
yeah, and they're saying, like, hey, we're going to come out with some content in fall, which is potentially up to 6 months away. And then, the next big thing got pushed until spring of 2017. So it's potentially up to a year until we're going to get something big for Destiny, which I'm hoping at that point they drop the 360 and PS3. If they don't at that point, that's crazy. But I hope they can kind of drop the old architecture and drop the old consoles, and then hopefully expand the game by a significant amount, being able to use all of the horsepower of the current gen consoles. But I don't know. It's gonna be a really hard year for Destiny, and it's gonna be a really hard year for the Division 2, where both of them kind of need to figure out where their footing is, and then rapidly grow the amount of content they have.
Yeah, well, Division, I think, has its own set of weird immersion problems, but
technical issues.
Between Destiny and Warframe, I've become pretty bitter on online multiplayer games, so I highly doubt I will play any of them soon. And that's on me, that's not on them, but, and there will be plenty of single-player games that I'm excited about that will take up all my time this year anyway. So
yeah, Obsidian's probably going to release another game, so
yeah,
it'll take up another 100 hours. All right, but that's all I've been playing this month, so let's take a break. Oh, man. Another hour-long first segment for PUP.
Yeah.
Let me make sure I've got all my news stories here. Okay. Yep. Sure thing. Yeah, no tweets or emails this week, which is fine.
Yeah, I'm pretty out of it, honestly, so...
Yeah.
I kept... I'd read chat and it'd be like, I have no clue what Boston just said. Crap!
Son of a... That's the hard part about doing this stuff, is I wanna pay attention to the live chat, but we're also making a show, Other Jay-Z really loves butts. It's sort of a juggling act. All right, let's see if the bird's left. Nope. Damn it, birds! It's such a nice day out. All right. I was just gonna ask you if I invited you to show notes, but you're in there already.
Oh yeah.
All right, I can close out email and tweets. We're not gonna get anything there. Okay, wow, it is way later than I thought. Okay, you ready to kick off this other segment?
Yes.
All right, starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's talk about RPG releases for May 2016. First off is Ray Gigant, I think is how you pronounce it, for the PS Vita, coming out. It already came out on the 1st. Seems like another kind of cool Vita JRPG dungeon crawler. A lot of people seemed pretty excited about that, but I don't really know why. Um, it 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 might just be because it's on the Vita. Sorry, Vita. Um,
It
Next up,
definitely has pretty cool artwork looking at the Google image search. So
yeah, that cover art is pretty cool. Um, Valkyria, I always say that wrong. Valkyria Chronicles Remastered comes out on the PS4 on the 17th. If you have never played Valkyria Chronicles, go play it. It's really great. And it looks even better and runs even smoother on the PS4. So, and I think it's going to come out at a budget price. Um, I think it's coming out for $40, but don't shoot the messenger.
and it is definitely one of Sega's. Here's a completely unique game mechanic system thing that they make
Yeah,
occasionally.
like don't put someone next to someone else that the one person is from this country and the other one hates that country. Don't put them next to each other because they won't fight, or they'll
Well,
fight with each other.
in what other game do you take direct control of different army members in some in like an action context?
Hmm.
Instead, I don't know.
It's like
I like it.
it's like a more actiony XCOM.
Yeah,
Yeah, with tanks.
it's like if you went to like a third-person shooter's perspective every time you took hold of a character and had X amount of seconds to do something with them, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I never finished it because of that one incredibly hard mission, and not mission 7. It was mission 11 or something. And last but not least, no idea how to pronounce this game. Hatolnik, the Firefly Diary, comes out on PC on the 18th. This came out on Vita a while ago, and I own it, but I never played it. It's supposed to be incredibly difficult. So
I have never heard of this game.
yeah, it's interesting. Ivan Incubus says $30 for Valkyria Chronicles. Thank you. That's a great price. I think that's a no-brainer. All right, let's talk about news stories. New Valkyrie profile game in the works. The only thing I really know about this is number one, awesome, more Valkyrie profile. But number two, apparently it's a prequel to the other games.
Wasn't the sequel a prequel already?
Oh man, I don't know. I played the hell out of the first one. I really loved it, and the second one came out, and I was sort of like, I mean, I played a lot of the first one, so maybe I'll skip this one. And that sounded like it was a pretty good call either way. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see them try this game again because the first one was, let's talk about a game with weird, crazy mechanics of
Yeah.
let's recruit all these people and send them off to go fight in,
Yeah.
Norse apocalypse.
Gosh, I loved that.
Yeah, it was this kind of cool risk reward because it was like, well, here's this party member and they're really good. Either they can stay in your party and help you clear dungeons, or they can go out and fight Ragnarok and, hopefully win you the game at large. It was a cool idea. It had a lot of endings. I think I only got maybe one or two of them.
I feel like Mass Effect 3 kind of lifted that idea for like the readiness meter thing where like you'd hit a story beat and encounter a character and then they join the resistance and then you could read the thing on how they affected the resistance, and that is the closest thing I've seen in a game to that originally.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Profile.
Yeah, the original was really great and really, really unique, and one of those games that I have to say, if you're playing it for the first time nowadays, I probably just play it with a FAQ so you can just get the best ending right off the bat because it's a little convoluted.
It's fair. Like you probably should read through like whatever level you're about to play. You should just read through the FAQ and then play through it. Like it's one of those. But I remember. I mean, isn't it an action game?
It was more. It had a very similar. No, it was a JRPG, like a side. Enemies over here, party over here, but more like how Xenogears did it, where you're kind of putting in some commands instead of just saying like fight, fight, fight.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
I have to say, if someone's interested in playing it, I playing it with a FAQ, it would probably be totally manageable nowadays.
That PSP version's really good. I'm pretty sure you can buy it digitally. So
I think so. I'd still say if you can manage to get the PS1 version, I remember them doing something to the backgrounds in the PSP version where they like softened them or they screwed them up or something. And that game is, if you love pixel art, that game is beautiful. But yeah, go check that out. Next news story is Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse is coming this summer. Thankfully, they renamed that for North America because SMT4 Final made it sound too much like it's like the original plus an expansion, but this is a totally different game. So the benefits here are that you can actually bring a party member into your party now instead of the original. It was just, or the previous SMT4 was just you and your demons, and now it's going to be you and your demons and one of your 7 partners the Oracle has here. 450 demons total this time, so there's more demons. The press turn system is returning. Smirking is returning. Like all this great stuff that made SMT4 really good is all coming back, and then they're expanding it and then telling a whole new story on top of it. So if the only question I still have is, and some people seem torn about it, is do you have to play SMT4 first before you play this? I'm going to say probably, at the very least to get what the heck is going on.
I mean, they have characters from it in it, so...
That's true. It seems like it's happening after the previous game, so just go play SMT4. It's really good. Very hard, but not unfairly so once you kind of get past the intro.
Yeah, I gotta get back to SMT4. Maybe that'll be my project this summer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not too terribly long either. And that's another game I play with a FAQ because they sort of commit the mortal sin of SMT games, or sort of, it has the standard mainline SMT map where you're moving a little dot around streets and stuff like that. But it's very much like, oh, someone says, well, we'll have to go next to this other place in Shibuya. And it's like, I don't know where that is. And you have to like go through 2 subway lines to get to another map, to go through a park to get to another place. And it's sort of like,
yeah,
I would not know where that is.
It's pretty hard to navigate.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. Next news story, probably the most important one. Persona 5 finally has a release date in Japan, at the very least, and that is September 15th of 2016. They released a new trailer. It's like 4.5 minutes. It's really good. It looks, I was telling Musum here before we started, it looks, if you compare Persona 3 to Persona 4, they took the style that was important in Persona 3 and they expanded it and kind of made it a little more crazy in Persona 4. Looks like they're doing the same thing again with Persona 5 and just expanding it to a huge amount. Atlas also said that it's going to be at E3 this year, so I'm really hoping we at least get a release date at E3. If not, I'm sort of expecting we get that same trailer maybe with English voice acting. But if we could get a trailer or a release date, that'd be really good.
I'd like that. I'm pretty much on media blackout with it, so I watched that first trailer that they released a long time ago, and I occasionally see stuff online just on accident, and that's just going to happen. But
yeah, like images and stuff.
I already know I'm going to buy the most expensive version of the game that they have available.
Oh, guaranteed.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of... I'd rather just get it and be surprised at this point. I'm probably going to get the strategy guide too, because the strategy guide for all of the mainline Persona games have always had interesting extra stuff in them.
And I'm sure they'll have some ending and a true ending, like usual. So,
Well, and as long as it's not as... I'm trying to remember how that question sequence on 4 wound up being, but I feel like most of them you hit like November, and then if you did the right stuff, then it continues on after November, and if you did the wrong stuff, it ends in November.
Oh yeah, or it skips forward to like April, and it's like, see you next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They always have good save game pluses on it, but my fingers are still crossed that they'll stick with that it's coming out the same day in the U.S. as Japan thing. But
That would be really nice.
I
Yeah.
don't think September 15th is a Tuesday, so it'd probably be like the 20th or something like that. But
Yeah.
as long as we can get it near it, so I'm not like hearing about how awesome it is from Mina importing her copy or something
Right. You're getting
for
all
like
those
months.
spoilers on somewhere else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Speaking of older games that you can now go back and replay, Nintendo put Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii U Virtual Console. It's only $20. It's a game that wasn't even supposed to come out over here and fetched a crazy high price. But I think Musum and I both enjoyed it. Never finished it because of all those darn side quests. But for $20 to be able to play Xenoblade Chronicles, which is just a beautiful game, really held back by the power of the Wii. But that's a pretty great game, and if you haven't played it, $20 is a pretty good price for that.
It's got a lot of, it's very story heavy too, so
Yeah.
it's definitely a good 50 to 100 hour story heavy RPG to play.
Yeah.
And like Xenoblade Chronicles X is good, but it's not story heavy. So
Right.
if you like that one, then go play the earlier one, and it has even more stuff in it.
Yeah. Xbox Live's Games with Gold lineup for May contains Costume Quest 2. That'll be free from May 16th to June 15th. We've constantly recommended Costume Quest on the show as a really great starter JRPG. It's not a JRPG, but it's a starter RPG. Costume Quest 1 was really good. Costume Quest 2 was pretty good. Maybe didn't capture as much of the spirit as the first one did. But hey, for free, that's a pretty good price. So go check that out. Also getting a release date, Square finally said that their sort of Chrono Trigger spiritual sequel, I Am Setsuna, is coming out in North America on July 19th. We're getting it for PC and PS4. It doesn't seem to be a physical edition for PS4, and unfortunately not coming out on the Vita in North America. But apparently the Vita version was really not that great, so I don't think we're really missing out on too much. But hey, if you ever wanted a new Chrono Trigger, apparently I Am Setsuna is basically Chrono Trigger.
So I've actually read up on I Am Setsuna. And I read an interview with the makers where they talked about the Chrono Trigger stuff. And evidently the big thing they're lifting from Chrono Trigger is the combat system.
Yep.
So I don't think it's going to be very similar to Chrono Trigger in most of the other aspects, though.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, I don't think we've seen anything. I mean, even Chrono Cross didn't lift Chrono Trigger's battle system. But yeah, they're definitely doing techs, and you can combine two techs or three techs together, and the enemies are on the field and all that cool stuff from Chrono Trigger. So I am pretty excited about that. I'm hoping that's going to be pretty good. Also, speaking of release dates, Tales of Berseria is coming to the West in early 2017. I always kind of get excited about new Tales games, and then I never really play them. I think I want to be excited about them more than I am actually looking forward to playing through an entire one of those. So maybe this one will be the one. And the Bastion dev, Supergiant Games, announced a new RPG called Pyre, which had an incredible trailer, and seems like it's going to be almost a strategy RPG. Pretty different from the last two games that they're making. It looks like it's maybe more, maybe a little bit more traditional in the RPG realm than some of their last stuff. But I think anytime Supergiant Games is coming out with a new game and then they say, hey, it's going to be an RPG, I think that's pretty exciting. I think that's cause for keeping an eye on it.
I love everything they've done. I keep thinking about going back and playing Transistor, and honestly, like I'm almost this isn't to say their games are bad. Their games are amazing. I am more excited for the soundtrack to Pyre
Yes.
than I am the actual game because Darren Korb he is an amazing musician and I love all his video game soundtrack stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That's there's gonna be a really great soundtrack, and there's gonna be one track where some lady is singing over it, and it's really good.
Well, and I'm pretty sure he uses the same lady he used the same lady in Bastion that he did in Transistor.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I'm really curious to see what styles of music he tries to combine in some weird because he always tries to make kind of this new culture out of his music for whatever fiction they're writing, which I really enjoy.
Right.
So I'm really excited to see what they do next.
Yeah, and hopefully it's a good game. I think that's all we can ask for.
Kind of have no doubt that it'll be good because I think, yeah.
And last but not least, our final news story here, Square Enix is actually bringing out Romancing Saga 2 in North America for the very first time. It's coming out on iOS and Android. I think there was a Vita version in Japan, but I mean, I don't think that's something that's going to happen here anymore. This is really interesting because we never really got too many of the Saga games, and the last one we got was Unlimited Saga on the PS2, which was really pretty but really bad.
So are the Saga games, I always get this confused because you've talked about, I think, a Game Boy game called like Final Fantasy Legends or something like that.
Yeah, those were the first 3 Saga games.
Okay.
And Romancing Saga, if I remember correctly, are the 3 games that came out on Super NES. That the crazy thing about the Saga games is they're all very weird. It's very much like Ogre Battle, where you're gonna play a game and it looks pretty similar on the surface, but then you start digging into it and there's tons of systems and it's complex but maybe not the most complicated. And I think Romancing Saga 2 is number 1 famous for never coming out over here, but number 2, I think it's a little bit more easy to swallow than some of their other stuff. So I'm kind of excited to play it because I think that's one of the few Square Enix games I haven't played. One of the old Squaresoft games, I should say, that I haven't played. So I'm kind of excited to give that a shot.
God, I would love for them to re-release most of their old catalog or bring over like Secret of Mana 3 or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Second Incest 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
a crazy game, by the way. Everybody really wants that out over here. I'm 100% understanding why they didn't bring that game over here. It is pretty complex, and that game is that the game that has? I think that's also the game that has a fully voiced song for its intro on the Super NES, which is crazy.
I've played like the intro, like because I remember that game has like 5 or 6 characters or something you can choose, and they all have slightly different intros. So I played at least 1 or 2 of the intros like a long time ago, but
yeah, that's kind of a staple of the Saga series. It's kind of, pick your path. They'll all kind of cross and converge and come together at some point, but you get to play.
Did you mean Secret of Mana or Saga?
Saga. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, we're talking about two of their more obscure series here, but yeah, they had a lot of really great games in their back catalog that I agree. I wish they could bring them out in a way that wouldn't really mar the overall experience. When you look at something like Final Fantasy V and 6 and Chrono Trigger on iOS, I'm usually not the type of guy that gets too upset when people go back and replace or kind of change up pixel art, because I understand. But for them to just completely obliterate the really great art in those games is really a shame. So I would be concerned about how they would bring forward a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Especially Final Fantasy V, that poor game.
They just need to like look at Capcom's collection discs and be like, let's do an RPG collection disc. Here
Sure.
is,
Here's all the Final Fantasies. Boom, done.
yeah, yeah.
Here, we'll charge $100.
I mean, I feel like they have dozens of like Super Nintendo RPGs that are not Final Fantasy branded that they could do too. But
Oh yeah, and a ton of them that didn't come out over here, like Live a Live, Treasure Hunter G, Bahamut Lagoon. Like, there's all these
mm,
weird, crazy little games that had really interesting ideas. You know, the stuff that I give Square a lot of credit for in the 16 and 32-bit eras, of just trying stuff, like throwing $1 million at a team and say, I don't know, what do you want to make? Oh, you want to make Einhander, this weird shmup that's like 30 minutes long and you're stealing guns from other enemy crafts. I don't know, it's like 100, here's $1 million, go try it out. You know, we get good stuff like that, and then sometimes we get Urgaze, which was not that great.
oh, did you hear they hired the project designer for Hyperlight Drifter?
Oh, I did. That's very exciting.
Yeah, I am like they hired him and they hired some other person from an indie project that I'm just like, holy crap! Please make them make like some crazy like JRPG
Some
throwback
neon
new
tinged
thing.
JRPG.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be, yeah, just stick them in a room, give them a team.
yeah,
We'll see them in 3 years when they come out with something crazy.
yeah. Give it
Yeah.
to me. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Okay.
And that's all of our news stories, and we don't have any tweets or emails this time, so that's going to be the end of this episode. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. If you'd like to visit us, you can do so at the other show, pickingupthepixels.com. Email us at fans@pickingupthepixels.com. Tweet us at pickinguppixels. There's no the in there. And everything else is on the right-hand side of the page. Musim, where can we find you?
You can get my music, including my new album, at musim, musim.bandcamp.com. And you can hear my other podcast, Carousel Podcast, at thecarouselpodcast.com and on all the services.
You should listen to Carousel. It's good. And it's free. You can find me at tvgp.tv for that video game podcast, the weekly show that I do. You can also find this show live, twitch.tv/E1M1 Network. It'll be on YouTube in a little bit. I got to go figure that out. And you can also watch my YouTube videos where I put up videos every day of some crazy roguelike that I'm playing at bostonhannon.com. And thank you very much for joining me yet again, Musim.
Pleasure as always.
And we'll see you all next month. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for watching live. I appreciate it. Thank you, Ivan Incubus, for joining us for the very first time, and somebody else did too. Thanatos, somebody. Thana. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next month. Bye.
Bye.